Couple of weeks ago on the website, the mmqb.com, you spent some time with an officiating crew. Give people a sense of what surprised you the most when you spent time with the officiating crew during the week?
I would say that I don't want to say it's an obsession with grades. It isn't an obsession with grades, but they're very preoccupied with this email that comes to them on Tuesday because it determines their fate in so many ways. I was with the Gene Steratore crew. I was in Gene Steratore's house when his grades came on Tuesday late in the morning.
Now, what's that mean when you get your grade? Overall grade for
No,
your game?
from the previous week, they
No.
had done a game, Arizona against Houston, and you get every play in the game is graded by an officiating supervisor who was at the game and then went home and watched the game on tape. So every play in the game is graded, and he looks at every official on the crew on that play, everything he can see, both in person and then on coach's tape and TV tape. He watches every official and what they did on the play. And if you make what they believe is a major error, they call it a downgrade. And Gene Steratore in the first 9 weeks of the year had 2 downgrades. And in this particular week, he had 2 in this one game. So you could just feel the pall cast over this house in Washington, Pennsylvania. And as we were getting ready to go, he's an NCAA Division I basketball official. He's going to Ann Arbor that day driving. So I'm going to drive with him. And he's getting ready to go, and he just shakes his head, and he goes, well, there goes the Super Bowl. I mean, because these guys all aspire
Based on that
the Super Bowl.
performance.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily true. I don't know what he's done since then. I think he's done pretty well, but he's not going to be out of it because of that one thing. But you know how you say if you're in a baseball game and you go 0 for 5 and it's a big game down the stretch, well, there go the playoffs. We're not going to make it, you know?
But to see them as people.
That was the greatest. That was the absolute greatest. To go into last year, the back judge in the Super Bowl is a guy named Dino Paganelli from Wyoming, Michigan, from an officiating family. He's a single father of 3 kids. 3 years ago, his wife died of melanoma, and he's raising these kids on his own with help of his family. And every day he goes and teaches gym and AP history in Wyoming, Michigan. And I went to his history class. The guy's a damn good teacher. He's really, really good. And he's got these kids at rapt attention talking about the Revolutionary War. And I'm watching them work with them, and it's really great because you see that they have their own lives. I went to a New York City housing executive in Lower Manhattan. He's in the belly of the beast. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he's in a meeting talking about some really disaffected citizens down in Coney Island who are still ticked off that they're not getting relief from Hurricane Sandy. And then at 8 o'clock that night, he's home watching to see the formations of the Ravens and the Bears because he wants to know what he's going to be seeing this Sunday. It's really an interesting thing. And by the way, these guys don't want to be full-time officials, and I don't really think it'd help to be full-time officials myself.
One thing that Mike Florio brought up on Football Night in America is maybe taking replay out of the stadiums, maybe having
putting it in New York.
Yes. What do you think?
In the central. It's a fantastic idea. The league should do it, not only because it'd make the replay calls more uniform. And like, for instance, I cannot believe the Jeff Triplett call yesterday. Remember the one in Cincinnati where Ben-Jarvis Green Ellis, was down at about the 1 or 1.5 yard line. His legs and thighs hit, and then he sort of, rolled into the end zone. And, so he was down by contact. And so Triplett overturned the call saying, basically that there was indisputable visual evidence, that he was not touched. You couldn't tell whether he was touched or not touched.
No.
That is what's wrong with, to me, the whole replay process. Jeff Triplett views indisputable visual evidence different than Ed Hockley does, different than Walt Coleman does, different than Walt Anderson does. They try to make it uniform, but they can't. So they can't do it. Take it away from them. Put it in New York.
But also, if you've made the call, you don't want to go against your own call if you're looking under the hood. I mean, doesn't that factor in either consciously, subconsciously?
Well, if you make a call that you have to understand that if you make a call that is really wrong, you could get a downgrade for it. So if you call something in the replay booth that is not overruling your own call, even though there's indisputable visual evidence, you'll get a downgrade. So that's going to hurt you more than if you just say, I screwed up, let's fix it.
Triplett screwed up yesterday.
In a big way, in my opinion.
Because it's one of those that if you make a call and you say, I think they rely on replay too much.
Yeah.
That they know it's there to help them if they make a mistake. It's better to call a penalty, just say, that was interference or whatever you might want to call it. That's a fumble. Toby Gerhart yesterday, they said he fumbled the ball. I didn't think he fumbled the ball, but to say that it's irrefutable and then you're looking at it, I'm looking at the same thing he's looking at. That's where you go, what am I missing here sometimes?
Yeah, and one of the things I thought yesterday was some really good officials. Like, I think Ed Hockley's a good official. His late hit on the quarterback yesterday was absolutely, I thought it was just outrageous. Nick Fairley, that was a perfectly fine hit. It was ridiculous to have that call made. And I think sometimes guys have a bad call, and there's nothing endemic about that. But too many officials who are too good are just making mistakes at a really bad time for the NFL, because the NFL, to me, is having a bad year with the officials.
VMMQB.com. The officiating story, is it still up on the website?
It's still up. Yeah, you can find it.
Good.
Yeah.
You can go there.
Three-part series.
Check it out with Peter, spending time with the officiating crew. Good to visit with you as always, Peter.
Thank you, Dan. Have a good week.
Go to bed now.
Thanks.
All right, we'll come back. We'll get to your phone calls, give you our best and worst of the weekend. It's 15 before the hour. Dan Patrick Show.